The most extreme form of bereavement is parental bereavement, and I know firsthand of this pain after losing my baby girl Milli at only 6 days old, with no indication of complication prior to her birth. It came as a complete shock to us. We never got to see her eyes, we never got to hear her cry. As the weeks passed and we were riding the tsunami of grief, those around us expressed how useless they felt. They didn't know that we too felt so useless. We didn't even know what we needed, but I knew at that point I needed to speak out. From Milli's life and death, this podcast was birthed. Little Life, Big Loss, as a safe space to talk about baby loss, grief, trauma, heartache, and hope. A safe space for lost parents to share their stories of their real-life angels. A place for those nearest and dearest to learn about our journeys and to gain a deeper understanding in how to help those who are riding the tsunami of grief. Welcome to Little Life, Big Loss. All right, we are live. So, I'm so excited. This is my beautiful friend AJ, and this is episode 4 of Little Life, Big Loss. AJ, we met through a business connect class type thing.
Yeah, that went off
a while ago. And AJ's been to my salon and had her lashes done, and we've just stayed friends. And sadly, when I lost my little Milli, we had something to connect over. So pretty shitty, but we make good friends out of it, right?
That's true. I agree.
So I'm going to start off, we've decided that we just want to have a really raw conversation about our life and our journey, but I do have a couple of questions that I'll start with. Yeah. So we want to know, who were you before you became Benji's mum? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I was already a mum to a little boy called Judah. I guess I was a stay-at-home mom. Before that, I was a makeup artist, a wife. Yeah. So I guess I had a few things, before Benji, but yeah, I guess you kind of sometimes forget who you were before. That's for sure.
Yeah. I was actually reading, and someone gifted me a grief journal the other week, and the first question was, who were you before baby loss? And I was like, wow, that's such a strong question. And you forget what life was like before that.
Yeah.
So you're a stay-at-home mummy with Judah and a makeup artist.
Yeah.
And you're married to
my husband Josh. So we've been married, God, I think it's nearly 9 years.
What?
9 years? Yeah, I'm pretty sure. So we grew up in New Zealand and only moved over here 4.5 years ago. So, we actually struggled to have our first son for about 4.5 years. And then
4.5 years to conceive Judah?
Yeah, we just weren't on any, I guess, contraception and such, and kind of just, we was like a little bit young, so we just kind of just went with it, not thinking anything, and then we moved here. We were like 3 months in, and then we found out we were pregnant. I think it was just the holiday effect, I think, living here. It was like, oh my gosh,
this is
so
interesting.
Cool. Yeah.
And so besides the sea change, what else had changed?
I guess we started actually eating keto.
Oh, you told me that before. I forgot about that. That's so good.
Yeah, because I've got PCOS, so we knew it was a struggle to fall pregnant, and then when we did that quite strictly, both of us, it just kind of naturally happened, and it was crazy. And then Judah was a actual COVID baby. He was born the 2 weeks of COVID, which threw the world into chaos, which was crazy.
How was that, having a baby during COVID?
It was really hard. I think, talking with my husband the other day, I feel like I'm still traumatized from COVID because I've had both babies now through COVID, and I haven't had the ability to have a newborn or have anyone see me be pregnant. Yeah. In that sort of way. And we had no support. None of my family met my first son until he was 1. And I think other people just forget that, but for me, I'm just like, that's a big thing,
that's huge.
Yeah.
And you weren't, so they couldn't meet him because they couldn't come into Australia?
Yeah, correct. It was like that whole, what's it called? Quarantine. Yeah. So just before my son's first birthday, and I was actually 16 weeks pregnant with Benji, my second one, I said, stuff it. I'm going to New Zealand. I don't care what anyone says. I don't care what my doctors are saying with what was going on. I booked the hotel, did 2 weeks while being pregnant, with a nearly 1-year-old.
Oh my word!
Just for
just so they could meet
to meet him and just
Yeah.
have that time together. Yeah.
And were you able to have Josh in the hospital with you when you had Judah?
Yeah. That was like kind of the very early stages and stuff. And then my night nurse actually snuck him in to sleep on the floor. They weren't allowed to do that, but she's like, it's okay, like let it happen. So yeah, but it was quite good because we were in our own little bubble of just, you know, just us, I guess, in that sort of stage. But
yeah, there's pros and cons, right?
So yeah, pros and cons. It's like, oh, it's awesome, and then it's like, oh, it sucks having your mum or your family or your friends meet your first baby. So,
totally. And so you were just saying then that you were 16 weeks pregnant with Benji at that moment, and you said with everything going on. So did you know at that point? So let's talk through. So how old was Judah when you fell pregnant with Benji?
So he was 6 months old. So he was a surprise baby.
Yeah.
Because again, you know, we were struggling and we were like, oh, we'll be fine. And then we stopped breastfeeding. And then happened, and it was a really exciting time. And then it was the 12-week scan that pretty much went, I would say, downhill from there. And it's interesting. I think I've been so blasé all the way through the journey because when the sonographer was like, oh, I still need to go talk to the doctor, something's going on, and I was like, oh, okay, no worries.
Yeah.
And then we had our GP call us and let us know what was going on. Again,
they didn't tell you at the appointment?
They weren't allowed to, the sonographer. She was just like, I just need your GP to confirm what's going on with my doctor. So then in Josh's eyes, like we went out for lunch after, and I remember it so specifically, he's not a crier. He like bursts into tears and he's like, there's something wrong with our baby because there's extra fluid in the back of the neck, which is an indicator of an extra chromosome. And in my head, I'm like, no, babe, they get this stuff wrong all the time, you know. And he's just like, I can't go back to work. I'm like, we're just not sure what's going to happen. And
so they told you that there was fluid?
Yeah. All they told us was there's fluid at the back of the neck. And then I just Googled what they kind of, you know, yeah. And then my GP was really onto it. She called me and was just like, this is quite serious. And I don't know, I was still like in denial. I was like, okay. Like, she's like, no, you need to really take this seriously. I was like, oh, all right, yeah.
And do you think that was a faith-based thing, or was it a naivety? Or was
I think it's both. Like, in reality, I was just like, God, what the heck? But I think I'm naturally quite a positive person. So I was just like, it's okay, you know.
And you just had a healthy baby. You just had Judah. He was healthy. What, why would there be something wrong?
Exactly.
With your second pregnancy?
Yeah.
And so that was at 12 weeks.
Yeah, 12 weeks scan. Yeah.
And then you went to New Zealand at 16 weeks.
Yeah.
Had you found out anything between the 12 weeks and the 16 weeks?
Yeah. So we had a procedure done by, what's it called? CVS, which means they take a needle this long and inject it through to the amniotic fluid to figure out what the genetics was and what type of condition he had. So he ended up having, it's called Edwards syndrome, which is, the fancy term's called trisomy 18. So when you think of Down syndrome, that's trisomy 21. Yeah. So he had full mosaic trisomy 18. So
isn't it crazy the words we learn?
It's insane. I'm like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Okay. So the easiest way is to describe he had a lot of issues going on, but often they have like a strawberry shaped head and they can't open their hands, and their heart is often enlarged with fluid. And with trisomy 18 specifically, when you are pregnant, you carry so much fluid. Like at 24 weeks, I was full term, my belly. Wow. So, and I actually didn't know that because I was still in New Zealand, and I complained to my mum. I was like, Mum, I just feel so pregnant. You know, when like ladies go, I feel so pregnant. Yeah. I'm like, no, I was full term at 24 weeks, you know? And so, the sonographer in New Zealand, because I was still getting tested over there and checked up on, because being a Kiwi, it was just, they were like, this is just part of the condition. You're just going to have a lot of fluid. And I could have been drained when I got back to Australia, but that in itself is quite an intense procedure. Even the CVS that we just talked about before, there was like half a chance that something could have happened. And so they had the screen above me doing the procedure, and I was like, do you mind turning that off, just because I don't want to see if he passes away during this procedure. Totally. Like, it's even
is
just
it the amniotesis or something? Is that similar?
I think so. Yeah.
Similar, where they take it from the amniotic fluid and test that. Okay.
Like, I remember seeing the tube of the syringe, and it was so fat, full of fluid, and you're just like, and it was such a sterile environment, especially being in the fetal medicine unit where they're doing the stuff every day. You're sitting there going, there's no music. Everyone's like just doing their thing, and I'm just going, like, I remember just praying, going, God, like, this is the one time you need to show up, like, and again, he floods the room, you know, but just when you talk about it, you're like, wow, it all comes back.
I know. I feel teary-eyed already. I'm like, okay, don't cry yet.
You're all good.
And so what was the medical's directions for you? Like, what were the medical professionals saying to you at that point?
They were pretty much saying from day one, you should probably consider aborting. This is like no chance whatsoever. And we knew we didn't even have to talk about it. We just knew such a piece of, he's our son, no matter what it looks like, whether he's very, I guess, disabled or doesn't live, whatever, we're just going to see this through. And I think it was the fourth appointment, and we got to the point where, like, okay, stop talking about abortion. Wow. We're not going to, like, they go, we can abort right up until full term with this condition. I said, like, that's not even an option. And I remember specifically saying that to Indian lady doctor, and it was ironic because she actually ended up being at the birth, and like seeing it all kind of happen and seeing the little miracles along the way. And I pretty much said to her, look, we made it, but we did it. Like, I know what you said, but this is what we believe.
And so talk me through that. Like, so they're telling you to terminate, you're saying, no, we have faith. Either, you know, we know what the possibilities are. We know that, you know, he's either going to be really unwell or he may pass away. And so how did you feel for the rest of your pregnancy knowing that?
Honestly, I don't actually remember too much. I just remember just always being like, it's okay. Like, I've always just kind of been that person that's like, it's okay. We're fine. Like, it's all good. And I just remember so many people going, oh my gosh, like, you're doing okay. And I'm like, yeah, I guess so. But I guess my marriage, like, we just clung on to each other and had some really good family around us. And we've got some really good family friends, like, from that moment. They just kind of took us in, you know, and been with us since that day. Of course, there's moments where I'm just like, wow, this is extreme, but I think I've blocked out a lot of it too.
Totally, I can imagine that. And because when was this? When are we talking about? What date?
Like, in terms of,
when was Benji conceived and birthed?
So Judah was 6 months. I can't remember, what was it? Oh, geez, that's a lot. He was born the 25th of June.
2021. Okay. So you're 2 and a bit years in, and so because it's so obviously, you know, it's so interesting to hear from somebody who is so far ahead of us. We're 6 weeks in. You know, it's so fresh, and so I was only saying to you earlier, you know, you think, oh, am I going to remember the story? But you do, and it just comes back. But I can imagine that trauma blocks out so much as well. You know, and if you're not reliving it constantly, which we don't want to do, you know, it's this fine line between I want to relive it because I want to remember them, but I don't want to because the trauma hurts so much. Exactly. And so you went through with the pregnancy, all the way until what week?
We were 33 weeks, and I knew that week something had changed. A lot more fluid. I was carrying just differently. And this is the craziest story. I remember it was about 6:30 in the morning, and I was getting ready because I would take my husband to work every day, and this was to Surface Paradise from Robina. And we got in the car, and I knew I was contracting. I just knew. But I was too scared to tell Josh. I was keeping time, and it was every 4 minutes. This is me.
What a woman.
No, but like, I was in denial. I was like, shit, this is not happening. Like, I was just like, I've got a toddler. You're about to go to work. I was supposed to have my baby sprinkle that night. Bless. And Josh was supposed to have a baby shower at work just because he was finishing work literally that day because he knew he had to look after me because I was just not coping with having a running around toddler and full-term, I guess, belly. And then I got home and I called my friend Hannah, who's a midwife, and I said, I think I am in labour. And she's like, what do you mean? I was like, so this is the time. And she's like, we're literally around the corner. Like, me and Joey are going to get in the car. We're going to come around and see if you're okay. And so I went upstairs with a toddler, fully pregnant, and literally just chucked my bags together. And I was just like, oh, this is so hectic. It was insane. And I quickened my labor so much from 4 minutes to a minute and a half. I was in the back of her car putting in the bags to put Judah in the car. And she's like, we need to call an ambulance because this is way too quick. And I was like,
dear.
Okay, like, just again so blasé, just like, whatever you say, you're the midwife, you know.
Yeah, right.
And so Hannah just had a 6-week-old baby. Then my toddler, like, so Joey took the kids to go get Josh from work, which is surfaced, and then we're waiting for an ambulance, which was literally 2 minutes later. But I yelled out to Hannah when they were gone, and I was like, I'm about to push. Like, I knew the feeling. And she, in her head, she's a midwife. Like, I know. She's like, oh my God, am I going to catch your baby?
Oh, my word.
But because I had so much fluid, my water's just broken. It just went everywhere. And I was like, oh, I feel better now. And she's like, oh my gosh, like, are you serious? And I was like, yeah, I'm good. But my contractions were still going. And then the ambulance came, and I just remember just being so like, this is so crazy. I just remember being so joyful. Hannah goes, you were just talking to everyone like they were your best friend, and then you'd stop, had your contraction, then go back to like, how far away are we? Like, how's everyone going? And she's like, you're crazy.
Had they given you gas or something?
Nothing. I think just because I was in adrenaline, I was like, I'm about to have my baby, and that's, I think my brain, that was the only option I had, was it was either going to be the shut off or just overly crazy joyful. Like, it was just so crazy. And then we got into the hospital and they checked me. I was already like 4 or 5 centimeters. Again, I was just like, oh, like, how long's your shift today? And it's like, oh my gosh, just focus on you. And they were like, oh honey, like, you're a bit, he's like, baby's really struggling, we just need to take you into like theatre, go do emergency. And I was like, yeah, okay, no worries.
So did you have a vaginal birth with Judah?
Yeah, and he was 9.9, so I knew what like big baby was and stuff, and I was just so not afraid to give birth whatever way. And the craziest story was Joey got a speeding ticket to get my husband to the hospital, so we paid that. Anyway, I literally had everything done. Josh wasn't still with me, and they were like, can we do epidural? And I just felt so much peace while I was in there. Yeah. I was just like, again, just going with it, and they laid me down, and then literally Josh sat down, and then Benji was born. It was just like the timing of everything was insane. But the craziest timing of this all was I called my mum, all amongst the craziness of the ambulance coming. I said, Mum, I'm in labour. She's a nurse, so she was like, oh my God. Yeah. So she literally, at that time in New Zealand, you had to get a 72-hour window before you could travel. Yeah. But they...
because you're still in COVID.
Yeah, still COVID. And so she rung, not the embassy, but something high up to be like, I need to go over to Australia today. Yeah. Or tomorrow. And they apparently got that sorted. And then they were on the flight the next day, I think 4 o'clock or something, and then that night at 6 o'clock in New Zealand, the whole country shut down. So it's just like, if we hadn't had Benji come at that time, they wouldn't have been able to come, and
hence all the little miracles you're talking about along the way. Exactly. And so your mum was able to be there shortly after
the next day. Yeah. So because we went to the Mater that night, you know, they were to come the next day and meet my baby.
And tell me, you just said that you're at the Mater, and that's where we were, and we had such a beautiful experience. And I know that not everyone does, and some people do, etc., etc. And so, what was so you birthed him
at the Gold Coast Uni Hospital,
and then got transferred to the Mater.
Yeah. So that was our biggest request, because we knew the specialist, his name's Ben, I think, was in the Mater. So that was our request, that we would get travelled up that night, and it was like 10 o'clock at night, and we couldn't get into the Ronald McDonald House for the boys. So I remember being shoved in this room at the Mater with, you know, just had my baby. He was up already in the room, and I couldn't go see him because I had to sort out Judah and my husband. Calling at the hotel next to the hospital going, do you have a room? Because I don't know where I'm going to put my husband and son, because I've got a room. I'm fine.
The staff won't help you?
They literally were just like, you've got to go in here and we've got to sort out your room. And it was like an hour just being in this tiny room going, I just want to see my baby, but I've got to look after this baby and make sure that these boys have their, But luckily, Judah was pretty easygoing, got them sorted and whatnot. And then I got to go up and see, Benji and see how he was doing at the moment. It was amazing. Like, I think we were saying the other day, they're just angels on earth, these, nurses and doctors, one-on-one care.
Yeah.
It's insane. Like, I wish I remember some of their names.
Me too. I emailed them about something different today, and I haven't. I'm going to email them again and be like, which one was this lady and who was on this shift? Because they were divine. I really, and I want to send them something. Somebody had a really good idea the other day that you can send like a candle with your baby's name on it, or there's a couple of other ideas. So I thought that would just be so nice because they were just such a big part of it. And I truly think that, I know that people's experience comes from the way we're treated by the medical staff in the hospitals, etc. So
massively. Hey,
so within a few hours of Benji being born, you were able to go see him.
He was,
And how was he?
He was okay. Okay. I guess it was just I had to trust God that the transition of him going up there, because we had no clue what even his condition was like. I don't know if this is too close to home, but when he was born, he actually he cried like a little kitten, and it was just like, I was like, Josh, is that a little kitten we can send? And he's just like, yeah, that's our son, like crying in his own time. And they brought him around, sorry to go back, but they brought him around to pretty much, I didn't know this at the time, but to pretty much say goodbye. So they just kept him there going, can you just keep kissing him and making sure that he knows you're there? And I was like, okay, no worries. Like, okay, I'll just kiss him. And then Josh goes, you need to kiss him one more time, because they had to go to, not resuscitate him, but because he's such a small, like his cartilage of, I guess, his tube down here was all jagged with cartilage, so it wasn't straight down. They could put it in, they had to get the smallest tube, and it was actually the Indian lady who got it popped in, and like after that he was, I guess, doing okay. But I guess to answer your question, he was okay that night. And so in the hospital at that moment, you didn't have any skin to skin or anything like that? It was more just like a little there was, I think it was the next day. It was the next day, I think. Honestly, it's and that was really special because it was just me and Josh. I think someone took Judah, and it was just you can just see back on the photos, and we were so tired, you can see it in my eyes, but we were just so happy. And I remember a mum saying to me before all of this happened, she goes, just take photos and videos like nothing else. And so I just remember taking like little selfies and be like, oh, who's looking? But like, it's just so nice to, like, even on iPhones, the live photos that turn into videos, you're like, oh my gosh.
One of our professional photos is me sitting there and my sister's leaning in to take a photo. And when we saw it, we were like, oh, that's a really cool photo. And then I said to my sister, I wonder what you're taking it of. And so we went into her phone and we have this live photo of her taking it of me. And it's just, I'm smiling, but I have tears, and I'm holding Milli in skin to skin. And then you hear my sister going, oh, like, it's just so beautiful. It's all those little things. And Dylan and I talked about it in the podcast, in his podcast, saying, like, I lay in bed all the time and just watch the videos and look at the photos. And Dylan's like, he doesn't, it's just different how everyone does things differently. And some people don't take a lot of photos, or they don't take videos, and, everyone is different. But I definitely cherish the ones that I have.
Yeah, definitely. Hey.
So you love that you have all of those?
Yeah, definitely. It's so nice, but then you look back and go, I don't have enough.
Totally.
Or like, I remember, I think last year thinking, I feel like I've just posted all my photos, and it's hard because you're just like, I wish there was more. And but at the time, a lot of my friends were taking stuff and then eardrop to me, so I feel like I've got a good amount.
And so you had friends and family come visit in the hospital?
Yeah, so of course we had my parents the next day, and we had some really good friends from church be around us. On the second day, we got the opportunity to, I guess, dedicate Benji. So we had some of the pastors from church just come and anoint him, and it was just beautiful, because in the Mata, they made it all private. So they put like, I guess, shields around us so we could have some privacy while we had that moment.
Yeah.
And it was just, there's this beautiful photo. I think there was 3 of us, like, so 3 couples, and the photo of us putting our hands on him, just like praying for him. It's just a really cool photo.
That's so nice. So were you guys in a shared room in the NICU?
Yeah.
There was like six beds or so?
Yeah, we were.
Similar to Milli.
It's crazy.
And so how much time did you get with Benji?
So it was born on the 25th and he passed away on the 28th. So I kind of, I say 3 days. Yeah. So I guess on the second day, that's when he got quite unwell, because I think I remember hearing on your podcast that Milli couldn't be on one certain side. Benji was the same. I think it was the left side. I remember saying to the nurse, why is he so purple? Like, he can't breathe properly. And they're like, yeah, he's really struggling on that side. Let's pop on the other side. And then once he was there, he opened his eyes and just like was able to just be like, thank you, you know, like he was in pain, you know.
His whole body or just his head? Like, was he able, did they?
It was more that I think just his motion of the head. Yeah, it just wasn't comfortable for him. Yeah.
Milli was on her back the whole time.
Yeah.
And like, obviously she had the broken arms and broken legs, but her head was always to one side, but she couldn't move her head, so they would move her head and have it on the other side. And we just alternated, but one side kind of always looked a little bit more swollen than the other. So
it's not nice, eh? Yeah.
And so talk me through, I'm just gonna have a little sip of wine. AJ and I decided to have wine with tonight's podcast.
We did.
So good.
It's so good.
Okay, so talk us through, at what point did you know, because I assume, no, I shouldn't assume, when you went through the pregnancy and you birthed Benji, did you know how much time you were going to have, or you weren't sure? Did you, what did that look like for you? And at what point did you know that your 3 days was coming to an end?
I think it was on the second day. As before, he was getting quite unwell. And they were kind of mentioning little things, but it wasn't until my head doctor was like, we need to have a really serious conversation with you. I was so in freaking denial of just like, oh yeah, let's go have a cuppa. And they were like, we're going to all have a serious conversation, AJ.
Take you into the quiet room.
Yep, that quiet room. Yeah. Oh my gosh. And like, even my nurse was crying, and I was like, why is she crying? Like, what's going on? And then my our cardiologist was just he was beautiful. He like did this massive heart drawing and was just like, this is what his heart looks like. His heart's a lot better, but it's he's not doing well. I still at the point didn't know what they were talking about. I think my brain was just like protective mode. And Josh was just like, what does this mean, sort of thing. And they just said there's absolutely no chance at all of anything. And I think I again protected myself. I was like, okay, what do we do? And they were just like, are you gonna consider what we just said? I was like, I need to process it. Of course, can't cry about it right now. Like, I just can't. And they said, well, what are your options? Do you want to go home? Do you want to stay at the hospital, or would you like to go to Hummingbird House? And so Hummingbird House was kind of brought up to us a while back when we were with the maternal fetal medicine unit at the Gold Coast. And I guess it was just on the back burner. We were like, okay. At the time we were renting. I was like, we're not going home. Don't want to be in this hospital, because all the people in the hospital had so we were next to full-size babies of they were sick, but they weren't intensely sick like my son. So I remember at the time, there was one woman, she actually had to be called to come down to feed her child. And I was just like, you are so lucky. I'm right here, here the whole time, and you just have to be called to hang out with you.
For the 7 days that we were in hospital with Milli, the other babies had no visitors. Wow. It was so awful.
That's crazy.
I was like, I want those babies,
exactly.
know? I was just, it was so sad. There was a little girl there that had been there for 101 days, and we didn't see a single visitor. And it just, we don't know the story. And so Dylan and I were making up stories. We were the mum's got kids at home and the dad's working away, or you know, like, but I don't know. I don't know what happened. They obviously couldn't tell us that, but I just wanted to hug those babies. Hey, I was like, well, I just, so
exactly. Yeah.
So sad.
Yeah.
And so tell us what Hummingbird House is.
So that is a hospice for children and infants. So not only that, they also provide care for, you know, for respite for people with kids who are really unwell. So we had the opportunity to, I guess, get a room. That's what we call it. It was the last room that was available. So we could go there with the help of the MARA, with this big, I guess, machine to transport Benji. And at the time, the doctors couldn't tell us whether he was going to take one breath or last 3 days. So, we got there about 5 o'clock, and they were amazing. Like, I think, the doctor, her name's Deb, and she's amazing, and I still need to contact her. They're very protective about, like, getting out, like, information, like personal emails. So,
sure.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, no worries. But anyway, I found out that morning she took the day, like, she was on her day off, and she came in to, like, help the procedure, I guess. And she's like, I just wanted to make sure you guys are okay, and that Benji was very much looked after. And she was with us right until the very end, essentially. And it was just great. Like, went to Hummingbird House. They put on a massive feed for everybody, and just had I had my parents there, and we had like our friends around us, and then we had just time like with everyone to, I guess, say goodbye. And we had, it was so weird, 2 different phones of all my siblings, Josh's parents who were in quarantine in New Zealand were watching. I hate that saying that, but like we're involved near the end sort of thing. And we wanted a atmosphere of worship, and we had a mix of live / you know, stuff going in the background, and we just sung all the way.
Are you saying Josh was singing?
Yeah.
AJ's husband, Josh, is a singer. That would have been so beautiful.
And 2 other people singing, and it was just like, again, we're our own little bubble, like, of just what was happening. And
what's the room like at Hummingbird? So is it a spacious room?
It's like an apartment feeling. Wow. So it was very open living with your own little kitchenette. There's 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and that's just 1 unit out of, I think they had about 7 of those. Wow. So you've got like other families going through the same thing on pretty much either side. So on the door was, you know, Benji's name, and just very personalized all the way through, and you have a social worker with you the whole time.
So beautiful.
And like again, angels on earth, and the whole time you're like, why are you doing this? Like, this is what we're here for, to you know, support you. And like, I think when I look back on photos and videos, like, I've got files on my phone that I don't really show to many people, because it's like, you know, of him passed, and it's, I think we talked about it before, when you know your baby's passed, they go quite a different color, and like I
was not prepared for that color. I just there's nothing that can like prepare you for that. And I mean, I'm hoping that something like this podcast might bring awareness to certain things. I mean, I don't know who's going to listen to it, but for me, it's like I do wish I knew. That's probably my only regret, is that moment of, I probably would have made that time last longer had I have known that's what it was gonna, because you know, we ended up bathing Milli once she had already passed, and that her colour had changed, and that was just so gut wrenching. But I wasn't prepared for that. So So how much time did you spend with Benji?
Like that night? I guess it was about 8 o'clock that he actually passed away. But I think it's so crazy looking back. We all had him in his bassinet just there, and the nurse goes, do you want to change your baby? Like, do you want to put him into something else? And I just went into mum mode. I was just like, I remember looking back at photos, and everyone's just looking, going, because I just remember talking to him the whole time, just like, I'm just going to change you, bub. Like, we're just going to put you into something warmer. Totally. And to other people on the outside, I would have been like, what are you doing? Like, or I don't know. It's just my, you know.
You know what? I think they were probably in awe of me. They were probably looking, just thinking, look at this amazing, beautiful, strong mum that's just talking to her child who has just passed away, but you know their spirit's still there.
Yeah, for
you know,
sure.
and that's strength, and that's beauty and courage and all those things. Like that's, I would assume what they were looking at you thinking, or that you're crazy.
No,
you know,
I
just
it was good. Like we all hung out and had cups of tea and were laughing. And I think I had someone comment going, "Oh, that was a bit random. Like after your baby passing, like laughing." I was like, "No, but that's what we needed. We needed to just connect with our friends. Our baby was still in the room. Once everyone left, we because we had the option of him either sleeping in our bed that night or the bassinet, and Josh and I were like, no, he needs to be out in the lounge. And we put the aircon on to make him nice and cold. But I think once he passed, it was like he didn't look like my baby, and I was very I wouldn't say disconnected, but I was like, I know where he is.
Yeah.
And that doesn't look like my baby, so I'm going to detach myself. Yeah. And I was very much like, it was such a weird but beautiful process, I think. Yeah.
It's funny you say that because Dylan said the same thing today. He said once we were up in the room, and once it was almost at that point that he was like, he knew what was coming and he was ready, and that was his detached point as well.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
It's just, you know, I guess it's defense mechanisms and trauma responses and all those kinds of things, and with the laughing, we were saying like you're either crying right up here or you're laughing, and it's again that defense mechanism of just having to bring your body back to some sense of relaxation or some sense of safety to then deal with the next thing,
you know.
What's that?
Or normality, you know. But
it's such a wild,
it's so crazy. Like looking back, I'm like, wow, our whole family's watched that through a camera. Like it's just like, I remember, I think my sister was saying, I would have just taken my baby and hid and had that time, and I'm like, and that's okay because that's what you would have done, you know.
That's
and
exactly right.
But I remember the next day waking up with my little Judah and just going up to the lounge, and he knew full well what was going on.
I was going to say to you, so at what point did you explain to Judah, and what did he understand of the situation? Because how old was he at this point?
He was just 1 and a bit, so not that long. I guess old enough to comprehend, but he's very much a gentle soul. And so, sorry to laugh, but before Benji passed, he came round because he got kicked out of the Mata because he had a cough. So the first time he met his brother, he coughed, and they were like, "Get out!" And I was like, "Awesome!" So he met Benji, I guess the night of his passing, and he goes over and smacks him on the head, and I was like, well, I guess that's your little brother. So
brotherly love,
you know, you're good. You just won. Where he was very gentle, and like even like when we had him in the bassinet thing, he just baby, you know, he just kind of got it, which was awesome.
And how now that he's what, 3?
Yeah, 3.5.
3.
Yeah.
How are the conversations now around Benji? Are they, you know, do you still talk of him? Does he understand? What things in the house does he look at and recognize as Benji's? Yeah,
so we've got like a little area, and it's like books, pictures, just everything. It's like our Benji like area, which is really cool. So Judah can easily go up, and so if anyone touches this or the box, he's like, that's my baby. But the other day he sees something that I just like full on started crying in his room. He goes, "Mommy, Benji Jesus, I want to play with him. Why not?" And I was just like, oh shit. Like honestly, I wish I could tell you could play, because he's just at that age where he just wants to play with someone, and like he just understands that Benji's with Jesus, and it's so crazy. Like he said to his kindy teacher, "Oh, Benji did," and we're at that point we hadn't told his kindy teachers anything, because it's just so hard sometimes to relive and tell the story. And then his teachers were like, "Who's Benji? Why is he dead?" And I was like, wow, that was our second son. And you know, the whole it's hard to pick and choose who you talk to. Like when I first started my job a year ago, I told my boss, I've got 2 sons. And then 2 weeks in, he's like, "Oh, how are your kids going? Like your boys at kindy?" I was like, So on that, yeah, I've got one Sunny's at Kinder, the other one unfortunately passed away, and I talk about as if he is with us because he is.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But I definitely pick and choose who I say that to.
Yeah.
Because I can't be bothered with some people.
And that's really hard. And I guess, you know, I shared the other week about I'm so fresh into this that I go places and someone will say, oh, so do you have kids? And I'm like,
yep.
And I was so stuck for words. I was like, what do I say? And so I said, I do, but she passed away. Or I don't even remember what I said at the time, but that's what my new thing is going to be like. Yeah, I do. I have a daughter, but she passed away. Or it's like, how do I have this conversation? And then sometimes I guess it'd just be like, say no, or I don't know. I guess you just got to roll with it and see how you feel in that moment.
Oh, exactly. You got to protect yourself, you know?
Yeah.
And then I think it's really difficult because, look, any grief is very valid. But I now going through an infant loss plus a miscarriage, there is quite a clear difference. Like, because you carry that baby for months and months, deliver it, and then say goodbye. Where a miscarriage is like, yes, it's painful, but it's different. So when I share stuff like that, they're like, oh yeah, I'll have people go, oh, I know what that feels like. I'm like, oh, did you lose a baby? Oh yeah, I had a miscarriage. I'm like, okay, like, and that's not to judge, but it's just hurtful because it's like you actually don't know.
We've also had a miscarriage, and Dylan said the same thing. Somebody said to him like, oh yeah, we've had a miscarriage, and he got really upset and was like, it's different. You know, we birthed our 39-week baby and then she died 6 days later, like you know, and we went into that birth with no complications and thinking everything was going to be fine. We had the whole nursery set up, and it's been something that I've really struggled with because I look at, you know, I'm in so many Facebook groups and all these kinds of things, and I've experienced miscarriage and I know how gut-wrenching that is, and so I try not to invalidate that, but it's different. And it's the same with, I've been talking about postpartum, and I'm like, postpartum and being a mum is hard. Postpartum without your baby is hard. They're different hard.
Oh yeah.
You know, like,
yes,
being a mum is hard. I totally would understand that, you know, crying babies and late nights and breastfeeding and all the things. I get that. Yeah. But it's just different. And it's the same, miscarriage loss is different to a baby loss.
For sure. Very, and it's not talked about. It's actually not talked about. The differences.
Yes.
Because the people talking about it have not gone through it. Yeah. Or they've just had a miscarriage. Going, oh, I think I know what you're going through. Yeah. Yeah. And I don't want to come off like harsh in that way, but we need to talk about like the after of having a baby and losing it, and what that looks like.
What did your body go? So you lost Benji at 3 days old after 33 weeks pregnant. So did your body then go through postpartum, and what did that look like?
So second day I was having a shower, my first one, and my milk came in hard and fast in the shower, and I was like, shit, I forgot I'm going to have milk, like sort of thing. Because we knew at the time, you know, things went well and stuff, and so I wrapped myself pretty much. So I just put on the tightest bra and was just like, nah, this is not happening, sort of thing. I'm all good. And then got my friend to go to Kmart, get me this, you know, the sucking undies and the sucking tights, you know, and she's like, yep, that's what you want. So but then just before we were transporting Benji from the Mara to Hummingbird, my friend Hannah, she's like, why don't we get some milk for him? I was like, okay. So literally out goes my tit and into a little, like, you know, pea cup thing. Yeah. And she like just saw me because I think she struggled with milk or whatever. And she's like, you're just flowing with colostrum. I'm like, am I? Like, because I'm just not thinking. I'm just like, oh, okay. And it's still in my fridge to this day. Yeah. It's so funny. But not funny, but So I guess, and just but it's so random, but I loved my body after baby, because I was like, I know what I've gone through to carry both these boys. But I think it wasn't until like 6 months into losing Benji that everything broke, and that's what really, I guess the word is, people didn't know how to respond to me because I'd been so positive, as I'd kind of already shared with you. Yep, like, we're okay. Yeah, baby, awesome. And even at Hummingbird House, just you know, him passing and having a funeral, I was okay. But
I think
then
it's also shock, you know, like
Yeah.
you knew that something was coming,
yeah,
but it's still shocking.
for sure.
And I think that's why you're in this like state of, this is okay. I'm
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
I'm okay.
exactly.
And then reality hits you.
Yeah.
For me, it was 6 weeks later. For you, by the sounds of it, 6 months later.
Yeah, yeah.
And then what happened?
I just became a very angry person, but I hid it really well with people, except like my really close girlfriends.
Yeah.
And I think even that, like one of my really really close friends, I would say whatever and just didn't bother her because she's like, it's okay.
Yeah.
Where I think it shocked a lot of people, especially in church, because they were like, what? Like, you were really happy and now you're really angry and you're angry at God. And I'm like, I just felt very lost because I felt very not, and people aren't meant to judge, but I felt very judged in how I was afterwards and things like that. And I just didn't know how to be. And I remember sitting down with a friend and probably wasn't the right person. And I said, I don't want to be here anymore. Like, I was so serious. At
church or life? You didn't want to be at church?
Didn't want to be alive.
Oh.
And I think she's just like, oh, don't know. Like, maybe talk to a professional. And I was just like, isn't this what we're supposed to do? Share with people? Like, you know, and I just didn't feel like anyone took me serious. Not that I don't think I would have done anything, but I was
thought you were there.
Yeah, I was in a very dark place. And I didn't know how to tell, like, the right people, I think. Yeah.
And so how did you navigate that? Like, you spoke to your friend and she didn't know how to handle it. So did you seek professional help or did you tell Josh?
Yeah. Like, I think Josh was on his own journey. And he was great. Like, he was great and took me how I was and was very supportive. But I still had to also be a mum. So I felt like I had no space to just be. So I had to just get up and still be me. And I went back to work quite quickly, which I regret, but looking back, it's got me to where I am today. Like, I made some very quick, rational decisions, which I wish I didn't do, but I'm in a great place now, like in my career, so that doesn't change anything. But we saw a professional psychologist, and it was the best thing we did individually and as a couple. He wasn't a Christian counselor, but he's from a Christian background, and he's very much about how your brain works, which I loved because I'm like, okay, I'm feeling like this, what do I need to do? And he was amazing, and he ended up like not charging us a thing, which was just like, you know what, how it is sometimes, it's very expensive, you know. Absolutely. So we're very much looked after in that way, and that really helped. And I think you just have to learn to dig yourself out of your own stuff sometimes, and it just made me realize how much stronger I am, I think, by myself and also with my husband, you know. And
I just think the professional help is so necessary. Like, I would not be handling myself as I am now if I didn't have my psych. I found a new psychologist the first week after Milli passed away. My GP recommended her, and I've been going every week or every fortnight, every 10 days or so since Milli passed away. And I will go. The other day she was like an hour and a half late because of, you know, whatever had happened, but I just sat in my car and waited because I knew I had to see her. And I just think it's so important. And it can be expensive, but I think a lot of people don't seek professional help because they're scared of the costs. But you would be so surprised at how much help is out there for free, or people don't charge you, or you can get the mental health plan from the doctor and then it's rebated. Like, I think my doctor normally charges $110 a session. I'm paying like $13 at the moment.
Oh my God.
I know.
That's amazing.
And then the psychologist is similar. Like, they charge you the $200, but then they back, you know, $187 or something like that. But I don't even, like, in my mind, I'm like, I don't even care. Centrelink are paying me maternity leave.
Wow.
I just use it for my own health right now. Like, I'm getting acupuncture and I'm having one-on-one Pilates and psychologists. You need all of that. Like, because if you're not seeking help, you're just digging deeper. You know, I know I would be.
For sure.
My mental health would not be good if I wasn't having all this help.
Absolutely. Yeah. So true. It's crazy. Eh?
It's so crazy.
Yeah.
And so what things did you love? Like, you knew that you were going to lose Benji. What things were on offer for you that you did and that you love, that you cherish the most? Like, what are your favorite things at home? Like, did you get offered like the handprints? And because these are all things that I didn't think of. And then the hospital just offered us these what are the precious wings, the box.
Yeah, the boxes are cool.
What's in your box?
Yeah, I guess it was like the hand print and the footprints, but we couldn't do the hands because his hands were like
Same
shut
as
tight.
Milli's.
Yeah.
Well, it's a little smushed hand.
Like, but it was cool. Like, yeah. So at Hummingbird House the next day after he passed, there was a lady that just turned up and did his casting, like of the hands and the feet. And I just couldn't get over, like, every time someone would come in the room and do something for Benji that it was free.
Yeah,
I was like, so how much is this going to cost me? And my social worker was like, chill, AJ, it's fine. Like, there's organizations for this and this and this. We even had art therapy. It was insane. Like, I didn't for the first 2 days. I was very opposed. I was like, don't like this. Where my son, who is, young, he would go off to music and art therapy with my parents. It was all done. They're like, do you want us to take Judah for an hour to do music therapy? And I think I walked past to go see my midwife, and I could hear the singing, and I was like, oh my god, this is so cute. Like, Judah's in there, like, it's a sensory room. So there's like lights going everywhere, and just
specifically for kids, or
specifically. And it was just a one-on-one session for Judah, just to feel at home. And like, it was just beautiful. And it was like the third day we were at Hummingbird after he passed, and they were like, I think it's time you do some artwork with him. And I was like, ugh, like, I just don't want to do this. Like, it was just very like, I don't know why I felt opposed, but I guess I did it. And it was really beautiful. And then what else did we get? Just trying to think. Yeah, I guess it's just like the little things you've got in your house, like the castings and stuff, and the photos from Heartfelt. They were there all the way through, which is really cool. And
I got a message off the girl from Heartfelt the other day. So Heartfelt is a volunteer organisation that takes professional photos at the time your baby's passing or has passed. And I remember when they offered that to me, and I was like, I don't know, that sounds really weird, but kind of took it on. And she messaged me the other day, and she just said, I just see you tag us in so many things, and I just love your feedback. And she said, I don't normally get feedback from families, so I don't know how they've perceived what we've done. And I'm like, I'm your biggest fan. Like, I've got your photos framed around my house. Like, we made the slideshow. Like, I just adore the photos that she took for us, because they were just so candid and so raw, and they got the really, really scrunchy face crying ones. And then they got all of, when Dylan and I went up to have a shower, they were taking photos of my family, Dylan's family and our friends, like kissing Milli and smelling her and laughing and just having that time. And I'm just so grateful for those photos and that organisation. Like, and I just feel like, the memories box and all the things they offered, I don't even remember saying yes to most of them, but it was just like, now when I open the box, we only opened it for the first time the other day, and I was like, oh my gosh, even her little hospital bands are in there. Her bandages that were around her little broken legs and stuff.
Oh my goodness.
I was like, I just would never have thought of those things. We brushed her hair with a toothbrush. That was her brush. And so the other day, Dylan goes, oh, her brush. And I was like, what? And it was a toothbrush. That's what the nurses were using. So we were like, oh my God. Like, I forgot all those things. So it's so nice to receive that box. And, you might not open it straight away, but to go back and look at it and be like, wow, like, I just,
the emotion behind it when you open it, you're like, because I don't open mine often either. And he's got those little heart things, and he's got his hair that we cut and all those sort of things. But it's insane. The crazy story all behind this. So a year before, 6 months before all of this happened with Benji, we had a photographer who did Christmas photos for our first son. And anyway, I contacted her when I first found out I was pregnant. I was like, I really want some maternity photos. I just found out I was pregnant, blah, blah. And then we found out what was going on, and I messaged her, and I was like, I'm going to cancel this stuff. My baby now has, trisomy 18. She goes, are you kidding me? My brother had that, and he passed away like when he was an infant too. look, let me take care of you guys. Let's do a maternity photo shoot as a family, and let me be at the, you know, the birth and all that sort of stuff. And I was like, are you sure? She's like, no, this means a lot to me. And so she was at, you know, she couldn't get to the birth because I gave birth way too quickly.
She couldn't get to the car side.
No, it's crazy. So she was at the side of Joey and Josh when they took Benji into his little, I guess, crib thing and took all those photos. And then she was there the night we dedicated Benji, and then Heartfelt were at the end in the room when he was passing, and I didn't even notice that there was a lady in the room. Yeah. It's crazy, eh?
Yeah, that's why they're so beautiful, because they just blend into the background, and they're not invasive. Or, you know, Dylan's mum said the other day, she said, I just thought it would be so strange that there was a photographer, but this girl was just so divine, and just so, she just stared into your soul, like as if she was just so sad but yet so honoured to be there, like, so you know, just really beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely.
So beautiful.
No, that's great.
So what is next for AJ, Judah and Josh?
What's next? Well, I guess we've been trying to like fall pregnant again. It just hasn't been really working, but I guess for both of my husband and I, we're very much into our careers at the moment and being parents, I guess. But we're very, very open with other people about our story, and I love it when Josh shares about our story, because it just comes from a different angle that I'm like, oh wow, you know, because you forget that they grieve differently and they process things differently. So when we had, you know, chemical pregnancies and miscarriage one after the other, like last year, like that broke him completely, where I think for me I was very numb, and I was like, oh wow, let's go again, where he was like, I can't do this again, I can't lose another child. So so we think differently, and I like that about us, because you know, you get to see the world in a different way. But
it's so hard on our men, hey, like, you know, it's so hard on us, but you know, they feel it in different ways, and they grieve differently, and and it's so sad when they just want to be dads as well, you know, like, and he is a dad to Judah, and he is a dad to Benji, but it's, you know, they just want more earthside babies, and and you just feel shit as a female, just going, I'm sorry, I'm trying, but it's not fucking working.
It's so true, you know, because they're doing fine, and then it's us that are like, can't keep it, sorry, like, for sure.
It's heart-wrenching. But I just wanted to say thank you for, I don't take this for granted, and I'm definitely so honoured to have had you on here and sharing your story and sharing your beautiful Benji with us, and thank you for sharing so raw, and you know, talking about the dark places and all of those things, because that's really a lot. And you know, the fact that you were told to terminate, and I know there's a lot of people out there that have to make that decision, and some do, and that's so valid as well. So you know, there's so much strength in either decision, and I love that you had little Benji with you for a few days, and I love that you got to touch him and cuddle him and love him. Thank you for sharing him with us.
Thank you so much for this opportunity, honestly. It's such a crazy opportunity, you know, like, why are we here? Why are we here? Like, you know, people call it the Mama Lost Club. I'm like, we are, I guess. It's the shittest club ever.
It's the shittest club with the coolest
you know?
people.
Yeah,
That's what someone replied to me the other day. So I won a Mama Lost package on Instagram. And I was like, this is the shittest competition to ever win, but also, and then one of the ladies wrote, it is the shittest club, but it's got the most amazing women in it. And I was like,
so true, because you just get each other. Like, you just sit down and you don't have to explain yourself. Where with other people who haven't lost children, they're like, what? Where it's like, oh my gosh. I get you. You don't need to explain.
And that's why we had lunch the other day, because it was like, no one else can understand this. But, you know, we've had, similarly to you, we've had amazing support, and people can only try to understand, you know, and I hope that no one I know ever goes through it, because I don't want to ever experience this pain again or more.
Thank you so much, babe.
Let's drink our wine. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. I hope you enjoyed. We're going to go finish our wine, and I will upload this podcast Sunday week. And maybe one day Josh might even come and we can interview from his side of things as well.
You'd love that.
Oh, would he?
You would.
We would love that. Stay tuned.
Awesome.
Thank you for listening to Little Life, Big Loss. If you are here because you have experienced baby loss recently or a long time ago, I'm so sorry. I know this pain will never go away. My heart breaks with you. This is a pain no one ever expects to endure. Or maybe you are listening because you have just found out your baby is unwell in utero and now you have some really hard-hitting decisions to make. I am, again, so sorry. These are decisions no parent should ever have to make. I hope these podcasts can lighten the load just a little bit in ways to help understand what the road ahead might look like and what your options are. Remember, you always have options. It is your body and your baby. If you have never experienced the loss of a baby and you are here to learn, thank you. We want to be heard and listened to. You will help someone somewhere with the knowledge taken from these podcasts. If any of today's conversation has triggered any uneasy emotions for you, please contact Lifeline on 13 11 14 or lifeline.org, another organisation working specifically with pre- and postnatal depression and anxiety is Panda. You can find them at panda.org.au. And remember, postnatal depression and anxiety does not discriminate. It can affect both men and women, mums and dads. Please seek help from your GP, a psychologist, your local hospital, a midwife, obstetrician, Lifeline, or Panda. Thank you again for listening. I love you and miss you, my Milli.